Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are now beginning one more DEXCO day. I'd like to thank you all for being here on behalf of the board of directors and also everyone watching online. As you know, historically, we always have a DEXCO day in the beginning of the third quarter, but exceptionally, since we were launching the corporate brand in 2021, we also had this in December, and now we're also going to speak to Antônio Joaquim, who's going to tell us about his experience as CEO, and Waldo Aranha, the new CEO, will tell us about his future perspectives for his term here at DEXCO. So we'll quickly go through the agenda, and then I'll invite to the front Antônio Joaquim. So this is our official disclaimer. We're going to hear from Antônio Joaquim. He's going to tell us about his 12 years as CEO, and then he's going to talk about forestry as a part of our strength. After him, we'll have Raul Guaranha, who's going to talk about the uh, profitability for our investments and our delevering cycle, some growth strategies, and future perspectives for 2025. So now let's receive on the stage Antônio Joaquim. It's hard to be on stage. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here with us for this late afternoon session. It's always a pleasure to be with you, the main analysts looking at our company. We have a group from DEXCO, some shareholders. It's nice to have some visits. Salo Saber representing the Sabio family, Olavo there as well, representing the Setúbal family, and we have a big group of shareholders. Paula Tung, our candidate governor. We hoped he would become governor, but it's difficult. So it's great to have you all here. When Guilherme gave us the suggestion of passing the baton uh, to Raul in this event, we wanted to have a small recap. Our main goal is to tell those of you who are keeping track of our shares and analysts who are providing recommendations a broader view of what you see when you only look at the earnings. We really want to show a moving picture instead of simply a snapshot. And of course, Raul is also going to tell us about his intentions for the future. Our shareholders requested him to be here and to speak, and he'll talk about how the company will continue working in the future. So let's start with a timeline. This is a long history. It's almost paleontology, but I want to tell you a little bit about our history. DEXCO is a company that went through several stages. We have some interesting pictures on the wall of our entire history, and the company had to reinvent itself over time. I've always told my team that the only certainty that we have is that we are in constant transformation. If we don't transform the company year after year, the company will die at some point. So transformation is the only thing that is permanent about this company. We're always changing. So until 2009, and this skips over 50 years of our history, right? So until 2009, we were a company that was split into two very distinct businesses. The first was wood, and we were pioneering in that area. We produced wood sheets. We were the first MDF company in Brazil. We also had strong leadership in the metals segment with the Deca brand. So we had two companies with two distinctive businesses. We had DECA, we had wood, but we basically had no synergy between them. We didn't even share good practices between both areas. They were really separate. We had a market leadership, we had a solid reputation, and it was in 2009 when we merged with Satipel, a company led by Salo Sable, and the Sable family came under our control, but more than that, Salo became the chairman of the board. And at the time, the DEXCO CEO was going through a transition. Paulo Setúbal was CEO for 20 years. He had to leave, and he became the head of the company. So this was a difficult moment that could have a lot of turbulence, but this became a landmark for the company. I saw a sign at the back saying, "The new Duratex is born." So after the merge with Satipel, we called it the new Duratex. We had a new company because it wasn't only a new shareholder. We were joining Satipel, which was very strong in MDP, with DEXCO, which was very strong in MDF. So we really created an unbeatable operation in wood. If it were today, I don't know how difficult it would have been to get approved by the authorities, but at the time, Brazil was growing and it was possible. But it really was unbeatable. And starting with that merger with Satipel, we started preparing a couple of things. First, we started preparing for a succession, a similar moment to the one we're in right now, with different things, but also going through a succession. Henry had come from Itaú Bank. He was already retired from Itaú, and he came in for this transition seeking a new president. We acquired our operation in Colombia, and we had a new shareholder culture. Savio was really in charge of this because there was a long debate and we had a new culture. So we decided that this would be the new Duratex. We were looking at what we pursued, and the company started thinking collectively. And we also entered the electric shower business at the time. When the succession process concluded, that was very different from what we're having right now. It was structured, it took place over a couple of years, and at the time, we needed to know more. We also had a few candidates in the company, so we went through an entire selection process. And when I took over, we were accelerating our transformations. We decided to step out of Argentina. We closed our operations there. At the time, we had already been tired of Argentina. We had had many years of losses, and we started the cultural transformation process, and it was very strong. Shareholders had a vision of the company's culture, and they wanted to change it. I had presented a working plan as well, and in fact, I revisited it this week. Last week, I had a leadership meeting, like a corporate convention, to show them the work plan that I presented in the past, what worked and what didn't work. So that was very interesting because I talked about culture in this plan. We knew that we had to change our culture. The company is very successful, but there were several cultural issues that needed to improve because it was a very command and control culture with many silos and many cultures within the same company. So that was something that we were working very hard on. And we started growing our operations in panels. And at the time, we could only build one plant for wood in Brazil. It was a very strong competition. There was a lot of competition in panels, very similar to what we see in pulp today. Well, at the time, we developed, or at least we started developing a couple of things. In 2013, I say that my first year was wonderful. 2013 was excellent. I was able to do things without worrying. The market was responding well. The results were great. Raul will probably face a tougher scenario, but that's just the way things are. And we decided to have an integrated system in the company. At the time, we basically had one controller's office for Deca and one for wood. So we decided to merge them, and this consolidated our Duratex management system. And finally, 2003 was great, but in 2014, we started a crisis that seemed to be endless, and it lasted until 2018. They were very difficult years in Brazil. It was good for different industries at different times. 2017, for example, was a year in which everything was doing poorly. Wood and Deca. But in Deca, we are having a tougher market. Last week, I said, don't worry, this is not the worst we've ever had by far. We've had situations in which both sides were doing poorly. So we're actually in a very good situation because we have that hedging effect. One part of our business is facing challenges because of national circumstances, but another part of it is doing very well. So that helps to offset the other. So we started the cycle of 2017 and 2018. But in 2015 to 2017, we started a new purpose. We purchased our showers segment. And this year, you noticed how we sold this segment. So we had time to start a new business and then give up on it. But what happened here was this. Our idea was not to produce electric showers. We wanted to work with water heating, which is much broader. We wanted to have complete solutions for water heating. So we had gas solutions, solar solutions. We investigated that area, but the world of gas and solar, which advanced a lot, advanced in a very informal way, with many imported products, many small companies competing with us. So we were left with electric showers only, and this was a small part of the business, and it wasn't even the most relevant part of this industry. At the time, we also started opening the company towards startups. And we started thinking at the time of a project that we had always had, and we knew we needed to grow. So at the time, we decided to uh, divest in forestry. That area was excessive and it was idle. We wouldn't have enough for a new plant in São Paulo, so we decided to monetize it. We brought the money in and we invested in ceramic tiles, and we reduced our debt significantly by doing that. And finally, in this period between 2018 and 2019, we were strengthening this area. When we started our uh, forestry assets, we wanted to do it very shortly. But that's a permanent part of our business. If you don't take care of it every day, then it will be destroyed. You start creating terrible habits and so on. So this is an ongoing struggle. We started focusing on deleveraging. We acquired Secrisa, and we decided to reduce our investments in forestry assets at the time. And we also decided to close some of our business units. We started looking at our portfolio with a very critical eye. For example, we had a sanitary ware plant in São Leopoldo. That didn't make sense anymore. So we started allocating our capital, and that was a daily exercise. In 2020, the COVID pandemic began, and this was an incredible story. I think I could write an entire book about this alone. I always said that the worst day in my life was March 15th, 2020, because that was when all of our 18 plants and 100% of our 13,000 employees had to go home. If you can imagine that. I was at home, we had a meeting, and we didn't know what to do. I don't think anyone can imagine that if you didn't go through it. Fortunately, we went through it very quickly, but we didn't know what to do. I remember I spoke to the board and we decided to reinforce our cash with 1 billion Brazilian reais. The board did not want to reduce employee salaries. Even with the government benefits, we decided to take with whatever they could help us, but we did not want to uh, dismiss anyone because people were suffering. So we were working on that, and in 30 days, we were able to get 1 billion Brazilian reais. It was a very fast operation so that we could sustain our business. At the end, 2020 turned out to be a very good year. We know that the construction market did very well. And at the time, look at this. This is what we were doing. In 2019, we had started projects, and in 2020, we started building our plant during the COVID pandemic. And this plant had 10,000 employees at its peak, 10,000 people on site. And that was one of the global cases for controlling COVID because we basically had no cases. We did lose one or two employees, as everyone did at the time, but it was very well done considering the situation. So in 2021, we made a new landmark decision with our shareholders. We decided to go through a corporate rebranding process. Duratex was a product brand and also a business brand, a commercial brand. So we created the DEXCO brand, which was very successful. It transcends the corporate world. We connect DEXCO to the company's product portfolio now, as was our wish. During the early parts of that process, we consolidated um, the DX Ventures market. We started with our new sustainability strategy. This was all well thought out. And when we came to 2022, we started operations with LD Cellulose. This part of the company is really doing very well. It's a great operation that has daily records. It's a very well uh, thought out process. And we did have doubts about it in the beginning. It was hard to start it during the COVID pandemic. We didn't know what was going to happen to the US dollar, to our markets, but it all went very well. And then finally, here, we started diversifying our portfolio. We acquired Castellato, which was very small, but very important to complement our ceramic tiles portfolio. And when Cecrisa was purchased, and it's now a major part of our business, what was Cecrisa and Ceusa before the acquisition? Ceusa had 2 plants, Cecrisa had 5 plants. We knew that with Cecrisa, we were only going to keep 2 plants because they had plants in Goiás, in Minas Gerais, in Tubarão. One of them was already being closed down. So we're still selling assets, but we had to leave the state of Minas Gerais, and this was done by design. We knew we would have to modernize its lines. And I'm going to have a meeting with the board to talk about our new plant in Botucatu. We knew we had to invest in modernizing this. There was no company in Brazil that had the modern lines that we needed to create. So that's what we did. We started closing lines and opening lines in different sites. And finally, we came to 2023. We restructured the company. I know the analysts watched this closely. This was a um, a backfire or a reverse effect after the COVID pandemic. So we spoke with you with a lot of transparency. You understand that we were facing some management issues, so we were working very hard to close the plants that needed to be closed, to replace some people, to improve our management, and this was all done throughout 2023. And then in 2024, we worked on the recovering the finishing division, and we really are turning the tiles area completely. We have a different sort of approach with our clients, and Raul has been working on this very much. So this is our history so far. And with that, if we look at our revenue in 2013, our EBITDA, and then compare it to the last 12 months, the company has really grown. I was showing some data on this. The company has really grown, but unfortunately, this hasn't really added the value that we wanted to our shareholders. When you go to the stock exchange, we actually had a very good day today. It was a very good day to have a DEXCO Investor Day. But we created things and we set all the basis to generate value to our shareholders, and we haven't received the returns yet.
We've changed a lot. In the past, in 2013, I think that wood accounted for some 70% of the company's revenue. So we worked on diversification. Let me emphasize a few points. Why am I going to call your attention to forestry? Because this is what I'm asked the most whenever we are having our results announced. '88, I didn't get the date wrong. In '88, we commissioned a consultancy called Jacopoe. It was the first time that DEXCO hired an outside consultancy company. They analyzed the wood business and they said the following: those that will do well in the wood sector are those that master the fiber, those that master forestry. And Iaco at the time talked about the potential Brazil had and so on and so forth. Now, what happened? Since the pioneers from Olavo Setúbal and then with Paulo, we wanted to have enough forestry. Celtipel also had enough forestry, and for a long time that carried our balance sheet, but we always tried to do it well. Now, what happened? We have prepared some data to show you why we believe that DEXCO today has an enormous competitive advantage vis-a-vis its peers in the wood industry. The pulp and wood panel market consumes 100 million cubic meters of wood per year to meet the current demand. 100 million, give or take a little. The wood panel sector accounts for 16% of that, roughly that number. All the industry. So what is happening? When we look at the wood panel sector that you monitor, DEXCO, Arauco, Guararapes, our companies, Eucatex, and others, the effect on forestry is not coming from the wood panel sector. The major forestry effect is coming from pulp and paper. The enormous imbalance that still exists in supply versus demand. And I've been hammering on that for a long time. The other day, a shareholder said, well, I've been talking about it for so long. And many people said forestry has never been a problem in Brazil. Those that had a problem should buy forest or wood in the market rather than having a forest. We created a price index. If you imagine in 2020 it was 100, that indicator being 100, you can see how IPCA behaved and how this index behaved moving forward. But this is a highly optimistic figure because it does not reflect the negotiation among companies. For example, a forestry company in our own business against the industry in our own business. And we know that in the market, that indicator might have been a lot higher. But at around 2020, standing timber could be bought anywhere in Brazil between 40 and 45 reals the cubic meter. And today, you sell that wood, you can sell it via WhatsApp. If you have enough volume, I can't even estimate price. If I had 1 million cubic meters, I could sell it for 300 reals a cubic meters. I don't. Well, if you have 100,000, that's a different story. But you're going to get 230, 240 reals per cubic meter. Why? Because there is an imbalance between supply and demand. Paulo Arton is here, and he is the president of Embapi. This is the evolution of forests planted in Brazil. For example, eucalyptus, pine trees. You can see that the total acreage dedicated to forest hasn't grown as much.
So you can see something here. My vision is that there's a sustained wood deficit in the market. So it would be essential to include paper and pulp at around 25%. So you're going to see things that you have never seen before. You're going to see major pulp plants not working at full steam. You're going to see that. And this is by design because there's a strategy behind it. And when will this... Take a look at these numbers here. From 2020 to 2024, the demand for eucalyptus, and from 2024 and 2030 is growing. So when is that fixed and how? Between 7 and 10 years, that will be corrected, being highly optimistic. Imagine the following situation. Those investing in forestry today are investing strictly what is needed because it's very expensive to...
Anything else because it's very expensive to invest in forests today. The cost of land is expensive, so is the lease price. Soybeans are doing well, so is sugarcane. All agricultural commodities are doing well. So to invest in forests is very expensive. In the past, you designed a pulp project. A 25 billion project was just implemented by Suzano, depending on how you calculate it. In the past, investments in forests was marginal. For example, forests would only account for 5 to 10% of the total business. I remember that that number wasn't even mentioned. Today, depending on how you do it, well, nobody is investing to have much left over. As there is a structural deficit, you will take care of your own business and in the future hope for the best. You might say, doesn't that encourage independent projects? Some do. BTG is doing it and others, but it's also difficult. It's capital intensive in the long term. With the current interest rates in Brazil, the situation is tough. Take a look at the wood price evolution. Since 2021, 153 plus percent. See how it evolved in each region in Brazil. We have new major projects in the southernmost state, in Paraná, in Sao Paulo, Mato Grosso do Sul. All these regions have very large projects. This is the price evolution by state. You might say, well, I have wood in Santa Catarina. Fine, but that's only good if you are there. If you are to ship that wood, it would be a problem. So we see some pulp and paper projects hauling wood 600 to 700 kilometers, which is more expensive wood. The most expensive product is the one you don't have. That goes to show the following.
Today, we have a very solid policy, 140,000 hectares planted, 218,000 in total. This includes controlled and leased land. We're investing in this position, and we're seeking to ensure that we have the following in mind. We need to have 95% of what we need to consume. That has always been our sweet spot. Why 95%? Because it's very difficult to run one entire year at 100% in the plants. And this situation gives us an important level of hedging. Raul calls this our optimal capacity. So if at a certain point I have a situation in the market where it is not interesting to force panels because the demand for panels in comparison to the supply, our supply at the nominal capacity for the plants is still higher than the demand. So if everyone is on full steam, prices might go down. So this is a moment in which our competitors don't have forests. Some of them have a bit more acreage than others, but it's rare to see competitors with over 50%, and some have nothing. They'll need to buy, and they're not going to buy extremely expensive wood to force market prices. And we also are not interested in doing that. So we can work with the market very well and use forests as hedging, because if they have good prices, if you don't sell panels, you can sell the wood you're not going to use. Throughout the years, you saw this, and every quarter I get asked, are we going to have wood sales this quarter? And I usually say, I don't know. We don't have wood in at first. We have wood for our panels, and we're going to occupy that process. If at some point we need to reduce production in our plant, and that's also limited, right? We shouldn't work under 80-85% occupation rates. But if we do need to do it, we have a natural hedge. And there's something else here. Our idea is to have a good forestry base in Alagoas. As you know, we have over 20,000 hectares planted. We're going up to 40,000. This is a long-term plan. It's an asset-light forest because we don't have the land, we don't own it, we pay a very good lease price, and we're planting high-yield forests. This is an option. This is an option that the company is buying so that in the future we can use it for our own projects. We can expand this operation in the Northeast. because in that area we can grow to 80, 100,000 hectares if we want, if we need. And you might ask, someday you can have a new dissolving pulp operation. We believe that this is going to become very strong, but we cannot do it in Minas. But we can build a business like that in the Northeast. And if you don't have forests, you're really not going to be able to do it anywhere, because then you lose your competitive advantage. Okay, and we're also working with sustainability for the forestry process. We're monitoring systems and so on. My goal, set by Paulo Setúbal when I became a director of forests, he used to call me boy. I was a boy at the time. I was younger. It's normal to see 35 year olds now, but at the time that was seen as very young. So he said, your mission is one, to have the best forest in the world. It, isn't Brazil the best place in the world to plant forests? So I want to be the best forestry company in Brazil and in the world as a consequence. And that is the cost of wood per land. And we had the lowest cost of wood in the world. And that was something that was developed over the year. Look at our controls, where everyone was talking about forest fires and something devastating to several companies.
Areas are scary. Look at what we lost. 0.08. I can't remember if it's 70 or 80 hectares. It's very, very little compared to our competitors because of controls, monitoring, and a lot of technology. And finally, this is what sets us apart. We keep on planting. We are working with the breeding, productivity, strategic location. We have the best average radius in the world in operations of this size. Mechanization and technology, round-the-clock operations, and strong cost control. You have asked many questions about forests, and this is a long-term process. There is no point having another company thinking about coming to Brazil. This is something that you built over the years. There are excellent forestry companies in Brazil like Suzano, Klabin, large projects, companies doing an excellent work on the forestry front. Very well. We have come this far. All of you have seen the succession process we underwent, Raul's choice. And Raul is taking over at a moment where, we had an investment cycle that was very strong from 2021 to this period. And I have said the following: the agenda for the next 2 to 3 years, it's not a sexy one, but rather one to cut costs, to adjust, and to make the most of what we have already made.
Thank you, Antonio. It's a pleasure to be here with you. For a long time, it wasn't really sexy to plant trees. We were criticized when we were self-sufficient and the market was buying wood very cheap from us. But it shows our long-term vision that the group had to reach where we are. And that's why we also made these investments that we discussed with you from 2021 onwards. We originally made 2.2 billion in investments and it finished at 1.8. So you know about this part of the story. In October, we started a succession process, and these are the priorities of the new agenda for the short term. So I'm going to start on this point, which is reaping the results of the 21-25 investment cycle. So to be very practical about this cycle is concluding in 2024. We don't have much for 2025, and we're coming to a point in which uh, we are coming from that backlash after the COVID pandemic, as we said, and also a need to turn around the finishings division. But the company is ready to grow, and with any changes in our scenario, we will be able to meet demands. Much of this investment is also related to the cost. The resilience in the forestry segment is also due to the efficiency we have in our plants and the debottlenecking process we recently had. Out of all investments, this was definitely the best because it's already benefiting us. With 10% investments into one plant, we were able to create an entire line. So now we're going to reap the results from this cycle. We have automation in the sanitary ware line. We also have automation in the metals line, and we're preparing for the future. We've talked about the turnaround very frequently. I know that you must be tired of this, but now is the time for us to really start getting into the game with with very solid operations. There are still some things to do in 2025. Since we presented the budget 15 days ago, Brazil has gotten worse. Our interest rates for future curve was at 12, and now people are talking about 16. So Brazil has changed, and we're going to have to steer these things very well. But we are in the market, we have our brands, and we have our own capacity, and we have to explore these growth avenues for the wood business, as Antonio said. We have Kitex, our forestry assets in the Northeast. We're looking at several opportunities for that area as well. But we also have new sources. We have some initiatives in biochemicals, new products. How do we grow in forestry without making many new investments? But the truth is, we got used to challenging ourselves year after year, and we've been seeing very positive results since 2019 up until 2024. We've been having good results for 5 years. So we know that Haddad's team is working very hard in the wood division, and now we're steering the business in a way that the entire market understands. And we have the discipline of taking the market forward, ensuring that we keep a good market share without giving up any space while still connecting selling wood to selling wood panels. That ensures that we have very good balance. Deca is a very broad brand. And how do we extend it even further? Deca has the vocation for this. It's a dominating player in many parts of our business. So how do we start new products under this brand? There's still a lot of space for us to grow on both extremes with innovative, high-level products that stand out, but also with low-income housing, products that haven't been affected by interest rates. This is a growing market in Brazil right now, and Deca can work for the entire scope for our entire portfolio of products. We need to make our tiles business more relevant. I think that's evident. This is one of the businesses that caused us the most trouble, but it's also the one that has the biggest potential to grow. We're market leaders in products for kitchens and bathrooms, and there's a lot of room to grow. We want to continue selling value. You know this, right? Everyone here has had construction works done at home, and you know that it can cost from 50 to 300,000 Brazilian reals, depending on the finishing you want. So Working on this is very important, but we need to still maintain our relevance. We lost some space in points of sale. We had a strong effort this year to recover our space, and that's not easy or cheap. So it really was a year in which we had to be active participants in the market. We have a startup in Botucatu, as Antonio said. We're going to have a meeting with our board, and that plant is giving us an incredible ability to explore difficult markets today. We are 6 or 7 Brazilian reais cheaper in shipping prices to reach the South, Southeast, and the Brazilian Midwest. We also have lower production costs, the lowest in Brazil, and we're going to have a continuous line, a tech tower. It really is a very flexible plant that will quickly fill up and help us to stand out in what we do. And we also have to continue with our cultural transformation. Antonio mentioned that we have two cultural transformation journeys in our company. The one that he started when he joined the organization, and it was reviewed in 2021. So this is the fourth year of this journey, and we've had great compliance, but there are many things that we still have to work on. Having customer-centric perspectives, being agile, being digital, simplifying our work. There's still a lot that we can do on these fronts, and we really need to be a company that is easy to do business with. Big companies don't need to be difficult, and we've been trying to simplify our processes. We want to align our teams, and I think this is going to be very helpful for the future. We need to be a well-oiled machine with our internal teams. They need to be sized uh, correctly, and I think the results of that are seen in our results and in the company's value. So those are the main priorities we have on this agenda. There are many other things. When I was invited for this role, I received many directions from the board, and many of these things were in those directions. This is our investment cycle. It's 1.8 billion, and this is all well planned for. We were very agile in uh, canceling some of the things that no longer made sense, and everything we delivered so far are things that we really believe in. To draw a parallel to the early part of my conversation, when we had our own wood and we sold wood at 40 reais, and when we could produce it at 60, it was seen as something that we were doing wrong, but we had a long-term vision of becoming more resilient and dominating the entire chain. Of course, if someone asked if we knew what was going to happen, well, we wouldn't have invested everything at that time. But without a doubt, all of these investments make sense, and they're really going to take the company to a new level. We spoke about wood, so we had a debottlenecking process. We invested in a new line. We have a finished product that is not as much of a commodity, representing 30% of our sold volumes, which give us a better margin. We're also starting the Botucatu plant with more technology, an agile plant that's flexible and at a very good location. So we know that shipping prices are very important in ceramic tiles. We improved our product mix in metals and sanitary ware. This is a picture of our PVD plant. This is our coating technology that produces faucets and many other things in up to 16 different colors. Much of the luxury market uses uh, colored metals, and our plant is the biggest coating uh, plant outside of China. That goes unsaid, right? China is the biggest at everything. So we made an investment into 9 machines. It was a long-term investment. All of it has been installed in Jundiaí, and this is going to give us a lot of capacity, new options, and will allow us to work with differently colored products, which makes us stand out. That can add value to our clients. and also innovation in retail. Antonio told us about our first investments in Viva Decora. We've invested in many other things, and with startups, some of them are very good, some are not scale-ups, others are still fighting the way and pivoting their business, but we can see what we were able to bring into our company. Speed, an aligned team, internal innovation programs. The lessons we learned really show what the startups provide to our business beyond their value. So, agile teams, acceleration, entrepreneurship, corporate ventures, really something that we believe in. And we're starting to do that. And now we're going into retail. That's something that we're doing very carefully. It was announced in 2021 when we changed our corporate brand. And 2025 will be the first year in which we will actually operate this entire retail architecture that we've been building. It was done very carefully to conserve our channels. We're going to work in areas where we have a lower representation, and we hope to make this concept more material so that you can go into a store and see all of our products. I think that will have a lot of value. Our stores will be franchises. This is one of the elements that we call the phygital retail with an infinite shelf, providing access to all of our products. We have the DEXCO house about 300 meters from us in Paulista Avenue. We have the Revestir Trade Show, which is also a unique retail experience that will truly bring light to everything that DEXCO can offer to the construction and refurbishing market. So this isn't new to you. I think this is going to just confirm what I've been saying. In 2021, we had a leverage of, we started with a leverage of 1, and we began our investment cycle. If we hadn't had an investment cycle, we would be leveraged at 2.1 times. Or if we had had the same EBITDA in 2021 throughout the other years, our leverage would also be smaller. But we started a robust investment plan that was done very carefully, and the Brazilian economy slowed down, especially in the construction industry. And we also faced some internal challenges in the finishings division, which led to these results, which were smaller than we expected. So right now we are at 2.1, which is still comfortable for our industry. But when you depend on the Brazilian market, since we have cyclical products and since interest rates are high, we're not comfortable with this level. So deleveraging will be a, a significant part of our focus for the future. We don't control this completely if there's something wrong or if this macroeconomic scenario degrades within the year. So we have to have our own initiatives here. Of course, we're not going to go deep into this right now, but it's important to know that deleveraging is one of the key things we're going to tackle. We're starting to tackle it now, but it continues strong next year. So, talking about growth strategies, and specifically in retail, our strategic plan is called Connecta. So within this plan, retail will play a very important role. In the first year, 2025, retail will be fully operational and will also be prepared to grow. We decided to grow in a way that was much more planned for and gradual so that we can learn and so that we don't generate conflicts between channels and challenges with our clients. We really have a very relevant group of clients in specialized stores that have had great interest in growing along with us in this retail model. So that's going to be very interesting. Normally, you would expect your resellers to be opposed to that process. But the way we're doing it so carefully and collaborating with our clients has made them interested in having deeper partnerships with DEXCO because they really believe in how solid we are, in our long-term vision, and in the quality of our products and how much that can bring into their own business. So this is Phygital Retail. I've mentioned Casa DEXCO. We have to advance in services. I think construction is also made up of services. The customer's final experience is the tile that has already been installed in their bathroom or kitchen, or the faucets that are working well. And we have 200 technical assistance hubs. It's the biggest network in Brazil. Our oldest is 45 years old in Santos, so they work with us. And we know many people who are very good at what they do. So leveraging this is also very important to improve the customer experience we provide. And this is also a source for results for our company. And we're also focused on logistics and distribution. We know how much good logistics with technology and quality and a good process can bring in for the organization. So this is not only a cost, right? Logistics can cost 10 to 20% of a finished goods final price. So doing it with quality and competitively will make a big difference in how competitive we are.
This is the DEXCO house. This will be the look and feel at Conjunto Nacional. We want to deliver an unparalleled experience. You will have the opportunity to visit it soon. It's a different store. 3,600 square meters. The purpose is not to be a point of sale, but to bring an experience without any friction. And we want to bring architects and designers and collaborate with them. This is a grand project that will help us bring all the experience of a DEXCO product to the same single place. That will replace two showrooms we have on Brazil Avenue.
That are all the Portinari Gallery and the Deca Design Space. That will bring us some lost efficiency, but it goes beyond just having one specific store. Of course, it needs to stand on its own, but it's not a store that will sell a lot. It really will deliver on the corporate and institutional part of the effort. That's what we hope. So we've started selling products in showrooms, but we're also listening to our consumers in doing this. We receive many visits to the showroom. People spend hours there, and at the end, we don't sell. We indicate or we refer them to a store. That would be bad, right? That would be terrible for their purchase experience. And more than a store, we're going to have access to primary purchasing data. So we're going to have a data volume that with analytics will allow us to understand what matches and what people are looking for. Obtaining data directly in retail, not only in Casa DEXCO, but also our franchise stores, will give us that capacity to be ahead of the market and to make fast decisions and work with data in a more reliable way. So on Phygital, ideally we should have an omni-channel experience. We're going to conclude the concept behind this store. And we also don't aim on working with our own retail as a single solution with the DEXCO brand. Quite contrary, but it will be a space or it's a business model that makes a lot of sense for a market that has trouble with succession, with managing its inventory. So this is a proposal if you'd like to work on a showroom, or if you have a good relationship with architects, or if you're selling luxury products but you don't want to have inventories. This is a very good proposal because it's easy to manage by the entrepreneur, and at the same time, it gives clients a much better experience, and it's scalable. It will work in our geographies, and especially the geographies where we're not working very well. And we hope to reconvert people to gain market share with products that are already in retail. So this makes a lot of sense in our strategy, and in some specific geographies, this will make a lot of sense. So this is a very careful plan that was made by Danielle and others, and in order to find this strategy, the right strategy, we're being more cautious than our clients would like. There is more demand than what we are offering in terms of stores because we can't get it wrong. We will only open stores where we have enough logistics, the right partners.
And when there is a service gap where we don't have an exclusive store or a partner at the level that we want. So these are supplementary strategies, and that's something very interesting, something I hadn't seen in this market. And we will make a difference, and we will hear about it over time. I've already spoken about logistics and distribution, the aftermarket. These are key aspects to our business. The outlook for the future. This is going to be outdated by tomorrow. So I don't want to preach to the converted. You are all very clear about the perspective for Brazil in the long term. That means up until Friday. Certain things are given. Next year is not supposed to be a very bad year, but weaker than 2024. And that's how we plan our budget. We haven't counted so much on strong market growth to create our budget. We are creating our budget thinking about the market share we can gain and the value proposition we can deliver rather than counting on a two-digit market growth. But the truth of the matter is that we come from a significant slowdown, especially in ceramic tiles. In 2025, we will have a market equivalent to 2019 with 30 million more meters and lower inventory levels. That adjustment seems to be coming to an end. Most likely, we will start witnessing moving forward less competitive companies leaving the market, and we also see more adjusted inventories at store level. In 2022, there were many people buying a lot. In 2023, we had 5 to 6 months worth of inventory, and that had a devastating effect on suppliers with a slowdown in demand afterwards. We are working with a very low growth in demand, but we know that the market is highly heterogeneous with different regions, with different income levels, different products. And DEXCO is one of the few companies with portfolio products and capability to play in every field. And that's how we will serve that wave in 2025. And to close, we don't expect any M&A next year. We believe that we have what it takes. There is a lot we can do with our assets. We don't see major capacity adjustments because somehow in wood and tiles, occupancy and utilization matters. And we found that utilization rates, we must gain market share. We carefully position our products after successive linear price increases. We have well-positioned products. We can work on margins. So there are certain details that can be worked on to improve margins. We do expect a recovery in the finishing division, bringing better results. I no longer want to speak about turnaround. We can't control next year, but if it comes as we imagine, although the results will be short of what we did in the past, there will be growing results over the next few years. So we close the first years of our sustainability cycle with a winning trajectory. This is the fourth integrated report published. We are the only civil construction company that has sanitary ware metals produced almost at carbon neutral level. And it has to do with our forests, with the fact that we are an integrated company. But honestly, we do more than we say. It's part of the values of our organizations. Next year, we will launch a new cycle looking at our portfolio, but we are well positioned to bring value and reputation to our company just by communicating well what we already do. And lastly, and what I emphasize the most, is deleveraging, obtaining synergies in our projects, capturing everything we have already done with responsibility in our investments. That's really vital to keep good control over what we can control. It wasn't different in other years, but we will pay special attention to the use of CapEx and OpEx. Internally, we have used the term TOTEX. We have to look at where we are investing our resources. This is a year where we should be cautious without stop looking at the future, but without giving up our possibilities. This is what I wanted to share with you, and let us move on to our Q&A session. Thank you, Raul. I'm going to invite the DEXCO Executive Committee to participate in our Q&A. Francisco, our CFO, Daniel, the Head of New Businesses and Technologies, Raul, Marina, our Head for Marketing and Communication, Enrique Haddad. I would like to ask all our colleagues to try and ask one question at a time. Rafael, you go first. Good evening. I'm Rafael from Bradesco BBI. First of all, congratulations to the IR team. As I can only ask one question, going straight to the priorities you ranked during your presentation. We are now at a very high level of interest rates, and the industry is very sensitive to credit cycles. In 2025, we might have a slowdown in your activity in those segments where the company operates. What is your number one priority, and how do you imagine the turnaround and the finishing division? What route adjustments will be necessary for the company? Thank you, Rafael. There are some points I've already mentioned, but being cautious in our use of resources, that's key. One more point. We are a long cycle. We operate in a long cycle industry. Having a well-positioned product in the point of sale will guarantee a greater share in that market. The recovery we've been experiencing in our market share has been relevant, and our brands work well on both ends of the spectrum. If we have a strong market for low-income families, and we must participate actively in that market. In the civil construction market, we have a great potential to grow. On the high end, we also have an offer. It sounds like a book, right? But we must work on both ends of the spectrum. Our message was clear. We must control where we allocate our resources, while we should also explore the unique potential our brands have, gaining share over the years, and that resilience we have. And being a multi-business also helps. When you operate in different segments, for example, wood is very specific and it helps us. Besides having a competitive advantage, we can choose between wood and wood panels. Point number 2, our possibility to operate with the strength of our brands, our distribution, and our BI that is evolving strongly as well. I just wanted to add that something was said during the presentation. I hope it was not misleading. What we see for 2025, it was a sentence about there may be a slowdown in demand because of the recent slowdown in launches. There are two major sectors affecting the finishing business. One is that we know Brazil is the country of self-construction. The effect of high interest rates, as we have right now, will affect those that are planning to remodel their homes or that will begin building their homes. So that may have a more immediate effect, because a house you built over 1 year or even in less time than that, that structured market for the luxury segment or the higher income brackets. Remember that we had strong launches in 2021. Well, since 2021, so a lot of real estate will come into the market in 2025 and 2026. If that wave of high interest rates causes a slowdown in large projects, That will have an impact 2 to 3 years from now. That's the normal cycle. But interest rates or higher interest rates affects our sector because our sector requires credit. If credit becomes more expensive, people will delay any remodeling project because that might account for 60 to 70% of DECA consumption. That might lead to a poorer mix. That may affect the lower income brackets. It's hard to give a number, but undoubtedly, over 70% of projects in Brazil are what we call self-construction. People who are remodeling their homes or building their homes. And
The project called My House, My Life, which is for the lower income population. And it could be that we'll have opportunities in other areas as well. Just a follow-up question to what was said. Considering the course correction in the finishings division, with this macroeconomic scenario, do you need any readjustments for the plan you made a number of years ago? I think our diagnosis was good, Rafael. I think that plan was well done, but it just took longer than we imagined. We had a much more difficult cycle than we had imagined as well. So what we mentioned before, improving surfaces in metals, quality in ceramics and sanitary ware, that continues. We can't say that we're not going to course correct, but I don't think it will be significant at least. Hi everyone, my name is Marcio Farid. Antonio, congratulations for these 10 years leading DEXCO. And Raul, good luck for the next few years, which might not be so easy. So, continuing on the topic that Rafael raised, when we look at the EBITDA for the last couple of months, we can think about 2 billion for next year, and half of that will be capex, and about 50 to 60% of your EBITDA will be your financial expenses. So I'm thinking about the cost of interest for you before we even consider the Selic rates of 15 or 16. So what I'd like to understand is, even in a scenario where we will not have worse cash generation, you seem to have a challenge for the next 12 months or more. I'm trying to understand if we should think about DEXCO continuing at this leverage level, working to pay for these expenses, and when the cycle changes with lower interest rates, would you sell assets? And what should we imagine if this scenario doesn't change for the next couple of years? I think your diagnosis is correct. Debt services cost about 600 million. There's a reduction in the project's cycle. Our investments are lower, and that's significant. But you also have OPEX, which is very important. So you have forestry OPEX. We cannot leave any open land. We always need to innovate. So your diagnosis is correct. Deleveraging the company is a mantra that we've been talking every day of the week with the board and everyone else. So we have one plan. I don't want to use this expression. It's not a plan by the book, but we have a plan with projections, with expected growth. We need to grow our top line significantly. We need to have more revenue. We really believe in investing in DECA and recovering. So with that, it will be 3-year horizon to deleverage company if you don't have any significant projects. But I can't tell you that this is the type of strategy that we're discussing because this is something that we need to think about um, in home. But if we feel that this process is even more urgent, then we might need to have some another type of lever that will be faster to deleverage. So in the past, we've used the forestry business. I'm not saying that we have aces up our sleeve, but we have some projects that we can consider. But, we have a solid plan for the medium term, and I see among our shareholders a strong long-term vision. They understand that we're not going to make any mistakes now. But how do you deleverage? You can deleverage by reducing your investments, by generating a lot more revenue, or by selling assets, or you have to bring in capital. So bringing in capital, selling assets at the level we are is not really the best choice. So we prefer to invest in this process. And Elio Seipo, one of our uh, board members, says, well, all we need to do is to sell more. But we really need to have a better top line. Since we finished an investment cycle, we need to be very careful about that. But of course, we're looking at our financial operations and many other things that we can work on to reduce it. The next question will be asked by Caio from UBS. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Caio Brenner from UBS. So I want to wish Raul and Antonio all the luck in your future challenges. Antonio, I'd just like to get your take about the 2030 vision, so 10 years in the future of the company. It was great to see Antonio's journey because we've always talked about diversifying businesses, and he was able to deliver on that. And I'd like to get a little bit about what you're thinking after this short-term challenging scenario. Looking beyond that, what do you think about for the company in the next 5 or 10 years? What do you think, might still be missing that, Antonio didn't have time to do? And what part of it do you think is unnecessary for right now? So I'd just like to get your take on that. And good luck. I wish you would ask me that question after my vacations because I'm going to spend some time away, after um, this turbulent scenario and after this nomination, I'm going to still develop my vision for the future. But I can tell you a few things off the bat. First, we have a very solid foundation. As we've said, we have great assets. We have a very healthy culture with a long-term vision. We have a very good working environment, and we have people that have a lot of quality and a lot of potential. We have very relevant, well-known brands that still have a lot of space in the Brazilian market. And we know that we need to be bigger than we are. We are a publicly traded company. We have several initiatives which match our way of doing things, and that comes at a cost. And when the company starts becoming smaller, that makes you with very little wiggle room to do things. So we will have a cycle of 2 or 3 years where we will consolidate what we have, where we will extract more from our current assets. We're going to understand what potential we have to grow with our products, with Deca especially, with metals. I think we have a lot of room to grow. and we can go into parts of the market where we're not present yet. In wood, since it is consolidated, that gives us a perspective of looking uh, outside the company. We have 40,000 hectares of land in Alagoas, and that will definitely make us think of ways of extracting value from that part of the business. So I think we will need to consolidate our culture. We need to improve our balance on the short term. And as Antonio said, we need the company to be bigger than it is right now in a 5-year cycle. So we can't beat a 10 billion Brazilian real company for much longer. We need to grow significantly, but taking safe steps and doing it consistently. We're known for this consistency. Some people say that we're conservative, and I disagree. I think we are consistent. We're choosing what we do, and we're looking at the short term with all the responsibility that this business deserves. After that, let's continue with Tati. Hi, I'm Tati from JP Morgan. First, congratulations, Raul. Good luck. Good luck, Antonio. I'd like to explore the outsourcing strategy for metals and sanitary ware. We didn't talk much about that today. We understand that this is a strategy for the next 2 or 3 years, but we'd like to understand how much the macroeconomic scenario has affected your strategy and if you are postponing any dates or if you're keeping things as they are and waiting for a future reassessment. Thank you. That's a great question. So definitely the macroeconomic scenario is playing a role, but it's not changing our long-term vision. We also try to understand the potential in our plants. When I say that we have a PVD plant with 9 machines that can produce color products, that gives me the flexibility to make high added value products, which is what makes DECA stand out. This is what gives us good results. The investments that we've made into the ceramics plant have given us products that have a world class when it comes to cost and quality. We are not far from a plant in Italy or France in terms of quality. So these things don't change. And we can also find complementary items that are not uh, developed in our plants and differently from what DECA did before, which was having a clear vision of developing everything in-house. I think that actually was very uh, valuable in developing our capability. But if we find products that have DECA levels of quality and differentiation, but they're not made by DECA, that would be great. And these high added value products accept the cost differences, both in foreign exchange and shipping costs. And since they are very asset light, and since we have since they are a complementary business, they help us uh, to add value. So companies that depend on outsourcing only will face many challenges. If you're trying to build a portfolio and accelerate your development and maintain your quality without, letting go of your products, I think that would be a very positive combination, and we're going to continue pursuing that in the next few years. And it's also very expensive to build a new plant in Brazil. Capital goods are at a prohibitive cost right now, especially when it comes to wood, but even in tiles, that would be very complex. I just want to add to that. Apologies, what was your name? Tatiani. So thank you for that question. You made a statement that we understand that outsourcing will be important for the next 2 or 3 years, but what we're actually seeing and designing is something that will be permanent. We understand that Brazil is very competitive at some things, not so competitive at some others. And unfortunately, in the last few years, we've been losing uh, production capacity in some relevant industries. When your cost of capital is high, you know, building a plant here is very expensive now. Our labor issues are still very difficult. We have relevant tax challenges. So, we talk about China, but we use that just as an expression. What's really happening is that big companies in the finishings industry, not only ceramic tiles, I think ceramic tiles, I don't know of any country in the world, even China, does not have enough competitiveness to compete with our industry, which is very good and strong. And the same goes for wood because of our forestry. But when it comes to sanitary ware and tiles, we see that all the major players in the world are designing for the future, looking at their quality, creating projects, and letting someone else manufacture it, someone who has a larger scale. So in China, you don't see a company supplying anything for DECA or DECO. You see them supplying for Kohler, for Toto, for the major brands at the quality level that they request. So this was not the case 10 years ago, but now you can have a solid outsourcing system. You're going to take risks with the foreign exchange, but you know, we also face those risks. Now with LD Cellulose, they are doing well with that. So the foreign exchange is a part of it, but it is possible to outsource and have fewer plants, have less of a footprint. So if in the future we need to expand our capacity, we're not only going to increase shifts or buy one machine. If you're going to expand, you have to bring things from abroad. And we're not talking about a low quality product, a Chinese product, as people will usually say. We're talking about high quality products with dedicated design, with research and development, and which are exclusive. So I think Raul understands this very well. Raul, Danielle, and I are extremely involved in this because we have to say that outsourcing would open up new possibilities. Of course, you have to have a brand, you need to have the design. You can't manufacture a line in China producing just a few thousand parts. But if you have a mainstream um, middle segment product, you can do it there with your level of quality, testing it and approving it. And that opens room for new possibilities. So what we're creating is a make or buy matrix where we're really creating devices to say, well, if I'm launching this new faucet next year, it will need to fit into that matrix. It's not that we're going to uh, decide immediately which plant will produce it. We need to find the best one to do it. So we have time for one last question. Hi, everyone. I'm Ricardo Monagara from Safra Bank. First of all the luck to Antonio and Raul in your new challenges. So I'll try to keep my question short, but I'd like to ask about retail. This was something that you mentioned, and I'd like to ask about the main deliveries we can expect for the next 1 or 2 years, and how much would be a good result for you when it comes to retail. Also, how relevant is your sales force in bringing clients in and selling them a premium product? I understand that I'd like to understand if you already have a good sales force or if that would require more investments. Well, retail will be a learning experience for us. We don't have a goal. We don't know the size of this business. We're going to start with uh, a lot of caution to see um, how we're going to work. And we spent a long time designing the solution before we were pleased with it. What I can tell you is that the architecture is ready for significant growth. Antonio said it recently in an interview. He mentioned 100 stores. This was the number we found as a potential for the next year. Of course, this won't happen in 2025 or 2026, but the secret is finding the right solution. I think we will be happy when every relevant region that has uh, good stores is represented with clients that can sell our portfolio as we would like, whether it is with our own store, our own retail store, whether it is through a phygital channel, or whether it is through a client that understands the market, that works with architects and engineers, and that have a good share. It's not one or the other. It's not, having own stores or retail. I think both solutions go hand in hand. We have 1,100 specialized stores that we service in Brazil. Many of them are not exclusive, some of them are, and we're seeing a lot of growth there. I think the main effect of retail is having access to uh, clients, to have data, understanding, how the company can work in this area. DECA sales and finishing sales will improve. Logistics will be um, influenced by our retail needs. So we'll be an industrial company with a different level in logistics. So I'll be very happy when we see that retail made DEXCO a much better company in different business dimensions: logistics, customer satisfaction, size, sales volume, and regional footprint. Considering our sales force, that was probably the most complex effort that we had to face. It's not easy to sell our types of products, especially since we have such a broad portfolio. Throughout the last 18 months, we had to uh, redo this without changing many people. We had to qualify, train our sales force in using tools. So we are far from pleased when it comes to organizing our sales force. We talked about um, joining Tiles and the Deca brand. I think that did make sense, but we were hindered by the macroeconomic scenario, by the COVID pandemic, which validated a few concepts. So our current approach is to continue this integrated approach at the at the level of the seller, where it makes sense to have a metals or tiles specialist, or to have a sales rep for Deca. So I think we're very happy here from the Salesforce organization perspective. And we need to improve digital tools, decision-making tools that need to be faster for our sales force. And I think that's going to be one of our priorities in 2025 in our smart sales journey. Great, Raul. Thank you. Before we invite Ricardo Martins up, I think we have to underscore a couple of messages that were said frequently during this presentation. Especially on the short term, our focus is deleveraging DEXCO and allocating capital. We're looking at this from Monday to Monday, as Raul said. Now I'd like to invite to the stage Ricardo Martins, who's going to hand Antonio this seal from Apimec, Brazil. Please welcome Ricardo.
Well, Guilherme, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. This is a special moment. You are the company with the longest relationship with Abimec.
We have information, we need it, and our beginning was analysts trying to find information and communicating this information to others. It's a long partnership that I'm very thankful for, and regardless of the information and regardless of the moment we're in, it's always justifiable to talk. So thank you, Antonio. Congratulations for everything you've done. And Raul, we wish you a lot of success for the next years. Thank you, Ricardo. Antonio, don't leave yet. We have a present for you from the investor relations team at DEXCO. So I'm going to read this to you. This is just a tribute from the investor relations team, Antonio Joaquim. DEXCO, on behalf of its investor relations team, would like to thank you for leading this company towards success. Your journey with us was marked by excellence, culture, innovation, and you will continue to inspire us. Your legacy will serve as inspiration for all of us. Thank you. And Antonio, we also have a gift to you. And don't worry, this did not come from DEXCO. This is a gift from us. I'm sure that you're going to enjoy it. Thank you so much, everyone. I said to Paulo the other day during an event at IBA, he mentioned me, and I said, if you're not an artist or a celebrity and you start receiving tributes, then you are definitely old. And I think that's where I am right now. So thank you. That's very kind of you. We have the investor relations team that is being led by Guilherme, who was just recently promoted. And I think you can do spectacular work together. Thank you, everyone. So, on behalf of DEXCO, I'd like to thank you all for being here, online and in person, and we'll see you soon. And the cocktail will be served continuing this event.